Joining us on the line at this time, we have my good friend, Commander Garvin Heera, as we touch on this new proposal by the government of Trinidad and Tobago, as stated today by the Minister of National Security. Commander Heera, pleasant good afternoon to you, sir. How are you?
Hi, President. I'm fine, and to the team in studio and to our viewing public, good evening. Thank you very much.
All right, okay. So I'm hearing you just a little soft, but I'm just gonna raise the volume a little bit on both ends. So thank you once again for joining us. Always a pleasure indeed. So did you have a chance to really take in all of what the Minister of National Security had to say today as it regards to the no bail for 120 days if you are found with illegal firearms?
Yeah, well, I had a short preview of what was being presented. I didn't have the detailed overview, which I'm planning to do this evening later, and then my team is presently looking at it.
Right.
But yes, I have been privy to what was pronounced.
Now, the attempts being made today by the government, these attempts are not new. And for some reason, they don't seem to hold. Over the years, even the UNC, they would have attempted. Why? Now, again, this is all good and well-intentioned on paper. But what does the government need to do to ensure that it is solidified in the law books and it is actually, there are proper checks and balances and so forth? What do we need to do?
Well, first and foremost, if we may look at what was actually presented in the government, the decision makers, those who would have been strategizing to bring this forward, needs to be complimented, because clearly what we are seeing is that they're moving in the direction of a holistic approach.
Right.
And I would have advocated on more than one occasion in various forums on the need to be interministerial and whole of government, i.e. holistic, in how you approach some of the issues regarding security and crime and criminality in country. You cannot have for instance, the Commissioner of Police and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service pushing hard from a tactical operational aspect and not being supportive legislatively.
Right.
So what I am seeing is a sort of, we will meet you on the half, the police service, that is, with the legislation to give you the muscle to take people to court, with the legislation and the muscles more or less to deter and to prevent. But what is important is that if we are very good tactically and providing very good operations from a police sense of view regarding arms and ammunition and the proliferation of small arms on the ground, there must also be an increase in our ability as a police service or law enforcement fraternity to be able to manage the prosecutorial process. Utilizing and maximizing the law. Having the law is one thing, not being able to use it and maximize it is another.
And that's
you're going to have people in rotation door syndromes, and that is what has happened in the past.
I want to make up a link here, and I'll take my time with this. So the UNC, and this is in regards to the Civil Asset Recovery and Management of Unexplained Wealth Bill, right? Mrs. Prasad says one of the amendments that she raised was in terms of who will be overseeing proceedings. And she mentioned that, I'm going to read exactly here. Mr. Prasad says to convince the government to remove the clauses throughout the bill that allowed any police officer and any customs officer to commence proceedings under the bill, and to replace this with the comptroller of customs and excise and the commissioner of police or any officer above the rank of inspector. I'm bringing that argument across to this particular legislation or this note that's being taken to Parliament, because one of the concerns that was raised under the UNC, and this was under the bail amendment bill and all of that, was that you find that there are officers, rogue officers within the police service who may use these privileges to target quote-unquote innocent people or those who are involved in various activities. How do we now sift the stones, I say, out of the sand, and to ensure that this particular move, which is a great one by the government, is not hindered by such forces?
Yeah, I think your point is great, and the opposition will have presented their concerns regarding the unexplained wealth bill and some other legislations and acts that would have come forward. And there is an existing issue in country regarding rogue officers, as you're correct, and corrupt state officials, not only the police service. And therefore, when acts and legislations are being constructed in such a way to be presented, I am confident that these things are also taken into consideration. What is very important here is that we should be seeing very soon some sort of move from our decision makers to treat with corrupt officers or with rogue officers across the floor, across national security, across state agencies, not only the police service. There should be a national effort by our government so as to address the issues of rogue officers, have some sort of specialist investigation capacity that can investigate, bring evidence, and bring people to the court regardless of whatever system, whatever fraternity, whatever agency you belong to. So it should be a national interagency sort of investigation in internal affairs. Standards, bureau standards, that kind of stuff.
Right, okay, understood.
Yeah, exactly. Not bureau standards, sorry, my apologies. But yes, that sort of element needs to exist so that we can separate those who are corrupted and corroded from interfering, and getting involved in utilizing legislations that have this type of muscle and bringing innocent people before the courts, or arresting innocent people for their own whims and fancy. If for instance, it might be under vindictiveness, for instance, that type of stuff, or taking a bribe, or working for for those who might be in the underworld. Those are things that are existing, and therefore people can very well use the laws for their own fancy. So therefore, we should also be seeing, in line, in the same speed and acceleration that we're seeing some of these legislations coming forward, some sort of movement so as to establish something in country that can treat with the rogue officers across the board, as I said, and I repeat, not only the police service, but across the protective services, and all of the agencies of the state.
Now, one of the ongoing challenges we have, and we will discuss this at length in relation to other matters, would be our very porous borders, because we could remove 9,000 guns off the street today, and then 20,000 come in just an hour after, while doing so once your backs are turned. Now, I looked at the three-part of the legislative agenda where they want to deal with this, and it's good, as I said. But how do we now tie in the issue of our porous borders with what's being done here today?
Yeah, but definitely. If you know, there's something called theatering in the national security industry, in Homeland Security, where you theater all of the issues. You look at your legislative agenda, you look at the tactical and operations agenda, you look at the capacity and the resources of your armed forces and the national security, and your support of your international counterparts, intelligence sharing, information sharing, your technology. You theater it. And then definitely when you do that, you see where the blind spots are. And presently, no pun intended, but one of the blind spots is the porous borders. One of the blind spots is our failure. And it's not just blind spots, Sheldon. It is not just porous borders. What we're talking about, and we have been repeating over my experience and interviews with you, is border control management. So as we emphasize on the inclusion of some of these key issues of legislation and operations and systems and various agencies, we now have to have a collaborative interagency framework to address border control management in country, so that some of the issues of what you're talking about, the importation or the proliferation of small arms on the ground, or even those that are utilizing under legitimacy the container trade and the business trade and the ports and the import-exports, where we could possibly have contraband and illegal arms entering the country. So our border control management needs to be escalated, and there needs to be a concentrated effort that is intelligence-led, inclusive of all of the agencies and services, and not just left up to the Coast Guard in the maritime environment, not just left up to immigration regarding entrance and exit, and not just left up to the port and the port police to deal with warehouses and various other areas of holding these. It has to be a prioritized effort that is addressed by National Security Council.
One of the last questions I want to ask you, and I know a journalist had asked the minister this today. When we look at our rehabilitation system, or lack thereof, I know there are many people who have tried, in all honesty. I know there are those independently, those working with the ministry. You have Wayne Chance and many others who they're doing their thing. But to me, when you look at most people who go in and come out of prison, it's like playing musical chairs. You're just going round and around and around and around and around, and you know it becomes like a comfortable sort of sequence of movements. I get in, I come out, I sit down, I go in. How are we treating with rehabilitation, and what more needs to be done? Because removing the guns is one thing, but if we don't rehabilitate these men and women, it will still continue.
Let me be honest with you. There is rehabilitation on the ground, and you're correct. There's some NGOs and there's some systems, platforms that are working assiduously to deal with this. Is it being supported as it should have been by the state? I don't think so. I think we need to see a more emphasized effort by the state and the state agencies in support of rehabilitation. But it's not just rehabilitation. What we're talking about is de-radicalization. That is the seriousness of it. Yes, people need to be rehabilitated, being released and go through a program and to fit back into society. But listen to me. When one enters into prison now, today, into these prisons in Trinidad and Tobago and the region, there's a radicalization that is taking place.
Right.
There's an ideology that is sold and a brainwashing that takes place and an evangelism, using that word guardedly. And therefore, a de-radicalization system needs to be set up, inclusive of our churches, inclusive of our social sector, the education sector, and inclusive of past prisoners, those who have served, and those who have been rehabilitated and de-radicalized and are different people today, to speak to these people and inoculate their minds and keep them safe from falling back into the traps and the snares that got them there in the first place. So it's not just rehabilitation. I'm actually asking the system to erase that word and don't think rehabilitation, think de-radicalization. It has gone clear. The horse has bolted.
So basically, the horse, when it comes to the whole concept of rehabilitation, the horse out the blocks already. It don't go on.
Precisely. We're behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. All right. You know what? We're just out of time. I want to thank you so very much for your comments and, of course, your expertise on the matter as always. And we'll keep in touch. Thank you so very much, Commander Heera.
Thank you very much, and God bless you.
All right. Take care. You too.